Welcome back to another FPL team selection video, and we're now coming into Game Week 5. Game Week 4 had the potential to go very badly, and it nearly did, with some people that I've seen finishing their week on 25 points. I feel like I've got quite lucky and ended up having a good week overall. Again, especially seeing as though a lot of people used their wildcard this week and I didn't. So let's start off by having a look through my team. In goal I went for Raya. Obviously I don't have another option with Valdemarson on my bench. But I did see in my team selection video that I wasn't expecting a clean sheet from this game, but there was always the potential for one with how good the Arsenal defence is. And well, another clean sheet for Arsenal in a 1-0 win in the North London derby. Finishing on 9 points with an extra save point and 2 bonus points. So I'm really glad I went for Raya at the start of the season, and he's definitely been worth the extra money. I actually doubled up on the Arsenal defence as I went for Gabriel over Pedro Porro. I said last week that it's always better to go for the player in the stronger defence, and that maybe this week was the week that Gabriel scored his header. And he went and did exactly that, keeping the clean sheet, scoring the only goal of the game, and coming away with 3 bonus points, so he finished on 15 points. A massive point swing from Pedro Porro, who ended up on 2 points, and this really helped me this week. I had Robinson in too, who I feel very unlucky not to come away with more points from, as they conceded a 95th minute equaliser to West Ham. So it was so close to the clean sheet points there, but it wasn't to be. And then finally in defence I had Konsa, who was a little bit disappointing really, as they conceded twice to Everton, and so he finished on 1 point. I still think Everton are a team to target though. How embarrassing is it that they can be 2-0 up 2 weeks in a row and lose both games 3-2? What a goal from Duran, by the way. Even though Villa did win the game, I was still a bit disappointed by their defence. Calvert-Lewin had plenty more chances where he exploited their defence, so I would worry if Villa were playing against a stronger attack. In midfield I had Eze again, who I feel unlucky not to come away with more points from again. He missed a big chance and also created a big chance that wasn't finished. The game finished 2-2 against Leicester, and when Palace got that penalty in the last minute, I really thought Eze was going to take it, but Mateta ended up taking it and scored. There has been a bit of clarity from Glasner on Palace's penalty takers. He said that they have 2, and they always talk about it before. It's between Mateta and Eze. He said, "We say you decide on the pitch," so they talk together. Whoever feels best takes the penalty and scores the goal, and that's what they did today. So clearly Eze is still on penalties along with Mateta, but as Mateta has just taken that one and scored it, it's very difficult to see him not just taking the next one too. Oh well, I still don't see that making Eze a bad option, but it does take a little bit of the appeal away, I guess. I still think he's good enough to score enough points at his price without penalties though. I also had Smith Rowe, who finished on 7 points. So that's 22 points so far this season now from 4 weeks, which is really good for a 5.5 million asset. And he's actually just increased to a price of 5.7. He got an assist, a clean sheet point and a bonus point to end up on 7, so I'm very happy with him. Rodgers was slightly disappointing. I think he's a very exciting player. We're just yet to see that finishing touch this season. But it could come at any point, and at 5.1 million, he is just a budget enabler. And I still think he's the best in the game, so I'm not too worried about him. But he did only end up on 2 points this week, even with Villa scoring 3 goals. So it's annoying that he didn't even get 1 return at least. Salah also blanked, so you're going from a 5.1 million asset to a 12.7 now? It's bound to happen that 1 week everyone brought him in that didn't already have him. But overall, a bit of a shock with Forest winning 1-0 away at Anfield. Let's be real though, Salah is still a very good option. It just didn't work out this week. But with Bournemouth at home up next, I'm still very happy I've got him. It didn't really matter that this was the week I brought him in, as Palmer and Jota also blanked. And I did the transfers for free, so it made no difference really. And then finally in midfield I had Minte against Ipswich. Brighton did play very well and had plenty of chances to score, but Ipswich also played quite well and the game ended 0-0. Minte could have got more points on another day, but it is what it is. I still very much like him as an option. In attack, I had Isak, who unfortunately came off at half-time and only got a 1-pointer. Newcastle did go on to win the game, and as they made 3 subs at half-time, it did look like a potential tactical change. But the FPL app has got him flagged as an eye injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. No pun intended there. In the press conference, We'll have to keep an eye on the press conference and see if he'll be playing next week. With Newcastle going on to win the game too, it was a little bit disappointing that he did come off at half-time. And then obviously I had Erling Haaland again, who continues to be unbelievable with another 2 goals. That's now 9 goals in 4 games, and his ownership is rising and rising every week. I had him captain, so he ended up with another 26 points for me. And so I ended the week with 69 points, which I'm extremely happy with, seeing what some other people have ended with. That gave me another green arrow, and I'm now all the way up at a rank of 23,940. I honestly couldn't have asked for a better start. I've not used any of my chips yet, and I'm in the top 24k. Obviously, I know it's still very early days, but I couldn't be happier with it right now, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and let's keep getting them green arrows. Okay, so let's talk about some potential transfers for Game Week 5 then. And this section's going to be very short because I'm looking to use my wildcard next week. Ideally, I'd actually want to roll the transfer this week, so I have 2 going into the week after my wildcard. But if there was one transfer I would do this week, it would be to remove Isak and bring in someone for like a 1-week punt. Realistically, that player is probably Jamie Vardy at home to Everton. Everton have been so bad defensively, and Leicester have actually looked okay. Jamie Vardy himself he's a different beast when it comes to the Premier League. He scored away at Crystal Palace last week, and he could do some damage against Everton back at home. So that is probably my only realistic potential transfer before I use my wildcard in Game Week 6. So here is my team selection for Game Week 5. So starting in goal, I've still obviously got Raya. Last week I said that there was always the potential for a clean sheet in Arsenal's game against Tottenham, which is why I doubled up on the Arsenal defence, and that did come in. It also helped that Gabriel scored the goal, mind, but this week they go away to Man City. This is probably the hardest game they'll have all season, and so even though I still believe Arsenal could keep a clean sheet in any game, I don't think they will in this game. As I have to play Raya, and basically as I don't have a backup goalkeeper, and to be honest, I am happy having him. He's making saves, so worst case scenario, they concede, but he makes a few saves and picks up an extra point. Basically, I'm not expecting a clean sheet, which is why I've left Gabriel on my bench this week. Just not wanting to double up on the Arsenal defence. So in defence, I have got Robinson of Fulham. They actually performed really well in Game Week 5, and were unlucky not to get the clean sheet against West Ham, conceding in the 95th minute. So not only do I think Fulham are beginning to grow into being a stronger defence, but I still really love Robinson's attacking threat. I've not been impressed with Newcastle at all so far, which is why Hall remains on my bench, even though he started against Wolves. And obviously, it's also the home fixture for Fulham. So on paper, it doesn't look like a great fixture for Fulham, and most people would probably expect Newcastle to score in that game, and they might, but for all those reasons I've mentioned, I'm happy to go with Robinson for this week. He'll probably come out in Game Week 6 wildcard though. Next to him, I've got Pedro Porro at home to Brentford. Tottenham's defence hasn't been great this season, but Porro is another player I'm happy with how attacking he is. However, Brentford obviously lost Tony in the transfer window. They've now also lost Wissa to injury up until I think it's the end of November. And with this being a home game for Tottenham, there's potential that this is the first week for a clean sheet. Brentford do still have Mbeumo, Carvalho, Schade, all those kinds of players, so they still have a decent team, but the goal threat is significantly weakened, and if they do score, I just have to hope that Porro gets an attack in return. Lastly in defence is Konsa. Now I've not been impressed with Villa defensively. Attacking wise they've been fine, but defensively a little bit ropey. This is a home game against Wolves, and so I'm giving him one last chance before the wild card. It may not pay off, but I feel like it's a better fixture than Gabriel against City or Hall against Fulham. Into midfield, I'm sticking with Eze. Undecided whether he'll be on my wildcard still or not next week. I need to have a think in more depth about the impact of him and Mateta sharing the penalties. How much difference will that actually make? But for this week, I'm happy to own him. Another home game for Palace, and against United, who did beat Barnsley 7-0 in the Cup midweek. But I think anyone could probably beat Barnsley 7-0, to be honest. For some reason, I just think Man United is the type of game where Eze just bangs. Just one return would be enough for me to be happy, though. I've then got Smith Rowe still in, another player that will probably leave my team next week when I wildcard. But like I said before, I've not been impressed with Newcastle so far. He's got me 22 points in 4 games, and I'm happy to give him another shot this week. Also at home, so we'll still want to impress his new fans as well. Then there's Rodgers. It's difficult to know what to say about Rodgers because I still really like the look of him. He's still very lively. He still has decent fixtures, and he plays 90 minutes. None of the other Villa attackers do. Obviously, Watkins is starting to score goals now, but he's 9 million. I still think Rodgers is the best cheap enabler in the game. He will return at some point. Hopefully it's this week at home to Wolves. Then there's Minte, who again is another player I really enjoy watching. He's exciting, but I need to make sure that I'm going to get FPL returns. And in the game against Ipswich, he came off in something like the 68th minute, whereas Mitoma stayed on for the full 90. I'm not saying he was a bad pick. He's still quite a bit cheaper than Mitoma, and I'm happy to have him in my team for the home game against Forest. But with like Ferguson coming back, all the attacking players Brighton have got, I feel like there's too much of a risk of rotation now, and he will be coming out of my team in the wild card, as Brighton then actually going to have a really bad run of fixtures. And then lastly for midfield, I obviously have Mo Salah, and he will be my captain this week at home to Bournemouth. I know Liverpool had a shocker at home to Forest in Game Week 4, but I can't see that happening again. They've just beaten AC Milan away in the Champions League. It was just a one-off in my opinion. And Forest were actually quite good, I'm not taking anything away from them. But I am happy to stick with the captain on Salah and hope he outscores Haaland this week. So let's move on to Haaland in attack then. And he's actually my vice-captain still, even against Arsenal. I have even debated just keeping the captain on him as well. And that, I guess it is still an option. I just genuinely think he can score against anyone at the minute. But Arsenal's defence is definitely stronger than Bournemouth's, which is why I'm siding with Salah at the minute. And then next to Haaland, I've still got Isak at the minute, but that may change to Vardy like I said earlier. If I was to change Isak to Vardy, you'll notice that apart from Raya and Net, that every single one of my players has a home fixture. So in a week where, in my opinion, there's not as many standout games, especially with City playing Arsenal, and obviously a big swing in fixture runs comes in Game Week 6, if there was one thing I would want from my team just to get through this Game Week 5, it's a lot of home fixtures, which is exactly what I've got. I've kept Wood on my bench just because I've been quite impressed with Brighton defensively so far, so hopefully I don't regret that, but there we are, that's my full team selection for Game Week 5. Let me know in the comments, when are you planning on using your wildcard and why? Or have you already used it? I'm really interested to see everyone's different plans. Will you be joining me on a Game Week 6 wildcard next week? If you did enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.